host, Sabrina Salvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. 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 I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. We're getting closer and closer to Friday. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. My special guest tonight is Princess Blanding. She is a candidate for the governor race of Virginia, and she's running through the Liberation Party. Welcome, Princess.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. I want to go ahead and get started with a video clip. And for those who don't know, I saw a video of Princess on Twitter. I think it may have gone viral. It was one of the first things I saw that day. And she is speaking about what happened with the governor debate in Virginia. So I'm going to go ahead and play that clip for you first. Now I'm going to share my screen. All right. And so this was actually tweeted by Proud Socialists. Ryan Knight, he's been on here as well. He said, "We've been told to trust the system, but the system is made to keep third-party candidates suppressed so people don't hear about us. I did everything I needed to do to be on the ballot, so why won't they let me participate in the debate?" And that was from Princess. So I'm going to go ahead and mute my mic for a second and play that video for you guys.
Do you think for governor on the ballot?
And what did you just do there?
I just made it very clear that I am a candidate to let Virginians know that their censorship of my candidacy is racist. It is very sexist. It is very oppressive. And it's a form of voter suppression. Their goal is to make sure that Virginians don't know that I exist so that they feel that they have to choose between the lesser of two evils.
How are you being censored?
They will not allow me to participate in the debates. I made it on the ballot. They have an already made base. I had to work 10 times harder to get on that ballot just to be told that I'm not allowed to debate. I have to come and sit in the audience. I mean, that is a bunch of bullshit. That's exactly what it is.
Do you think?
And then no police come when this man is literally physically pushing against me. He's taking his big body and he's pushing up against me. Not one police officer comes. We're not going to sit here and talk about it. I was told that this is for the business class. Well, guess what? Those are two millionaires. I made less than $1,500 during the last reporting. In order to get on the ballot, I had no money, but I stayed boots on the ground. And people, Virginians across the board, Republican, Democratic, and Independent, signed that petition in order to get me on. But they are trying to silence me so that no one knows that I am getting on the ballot. And they feel that they have to choose between the lesser of the two evils. I will not be silenced.
Do you think shouting down the debate is the best way to do it? You could just
guess what? Right? And every time I do an interview, most of the press do not even air it, or they will misquote me. Okay, so guess what? I refuse to play by the games and the rules of the duopoly. In order for Virginians to ensure our rightful place, we will take it. I am not going to ask anymore. We have been told to trust the system, and the system is meant to keep third-party candidates oppressed, to make sure that people don't know about it. I have done everything that I needed to do in order to get on the ballot. Why am I not able to participate in the debate? We have these two rich white men that are sitting up there, and you don't hear anyone reporting that I am the only Black woman in the history of Virginia to ever make it on the ballot. But I can't have my voice heard. I can't speak and represent the voices, needs, and concerns of all Virginians. Again, it's not okay. And for people to sit in there, all I'm listening to around me is people talking about their timeshares and their investments when we have people who don't have anywhere to lay their heads at.
Well said, Princess. Well said. So I guess I want to start with that. Can you explain to everybody what exactly happened? Because you met the requirements to be able to debate, and then when you got there, what were you told?
So actually what happened is I met the requirements to be on the ballot. My campaign reached out to the Nova Chamber of Commerce, who hosted this event, and we asked to be provided with the same materials, prep materials that the other two candidates were provided with, so that I can participate in the debate. And if they were not going to allow me to, for them to explain why. And what we were told is that historically, they only allowed the Democratic and Republican candidates to participate, and that they were not going to allow me to participate. What they said is that, however, we will, basically give you a free ticket to come sit in the audience and watch the debate, and you can talk to the press afterwards. And to me, reading that email, it translated to me as, you paid your dues, you paid your fare to get on the bus, so you can get on the bus just like everybody else, but you're going to sit to the back of the bus. And that was not okay with me. Like, I worked very hard. My team and I and community members across the Commonwealth worked very hard to get the required signatures to get on the ballot. However, I'm not being provided with equitable opportunities for Virginians to be able to hear from me as their candidate.
Mm, 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 mm. I personally, I tell everybody here all the time, they probably get tired of me saying it, but I tell them, like, the two-party system has got to go.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a perfect example of why it needs to go. I'm curious to hear from you. Why did you decide to run under the Liberation Party and not the Democratic Party?
Absolutely. Well, my spark started in 2018. On May 14th, 2018, my brother, Marcus David Peters, who was also a high school biology teacher at the school that I was an assistant principal at, he taught a full day of high school biology, headed towards his home in Henrico, and my brother had his very first mental health crisis. And while my brother was unarmed, completely undressed, and experiencing that mental health crisis, he was murdered by a Richmond police officer, Michael Nyataki, and his murder was deemed a justifiable homicide. So since the time that my brother was murdered up until the current, summer 2020, myself, family members, and community members, we begged our local and state elected officials to enact legislation that prioritized community care and safety, and that held our police officers accountable for unjust murders. And, we were ignored. I remember talking before city council, they played on their cell phones and electronic devices. They completely disregarded us. But as I say so often, and I remind people, I made my brother a promise at his gravesite that I would fight for justice and reformation for my brother. And my fight quickly grew as legislators reached out to me, after the unjust murder of George Floyd, because there was a Richmond uprising, as there was across the nation, that I was heavily involved in. And it was due to fear that now they reach out to us and say, hey, Princess, that Marcus Alert bill that you've been, begging for since, and I'm saying 2018, and that Independent Civilian Review Board and qualified immunity, let's work together for that. So they wanted to work with us, just to ease the tension in the city. But what we end up getting was weak, watered down legislation, or they killed the bills altogether. It's important to note that in Virginia, the Democratic Party is the majority in both the House, the Senate, and we have a Democratic governor. And so they cannot blame it on the Republicans as the reason why they are not addressing the voices, needs, and concerns of the people. And so it was due to the continuous failures of the duopoly, specifically the Democratic Party, that I came to the conclusion that we cannot continue to beg our oppressors to be our saviors, because they will not, and that we must expand our fight from the streets and into the seats of these key elected positions in order to claim the full course meal that we absolutely deserve. And I decided that it was time for me to be a part of my ancestors' wildest dreams and to step up to the plate.
Yeah, see what I was telling you guys when I talk about police brutality? The cases that you hear about on the news, those are the minority. The majority of these cases you never even hear about because they don't get national attention. It is absolutely unbelievable. I want to talk some about the Liberation Party. Like, what would you say is on your platform, for the Liberation Party? And would you say that it's more anti-capitalist? Is it closer towards like socialism, or is it closer towards neoliberalism?
Yeah, it's probably closer to socialism, but at the end of the day, however you want to categorize it, with the Liberation Party, we're strong believers that liberation is a human right, not a privilege for all Virginians. And when we say that, we mean access to, housing for all,
food sovereignty, Medicare for all. That's at the very bottom of Bloom's taxonomy, just for us to be able to survive. And it's painful. It's unfortunate that that's what we have to fight for. Here in Virginia, we are the 9th wealthiest state in the country. There's no reason for community members to be facing housing insecurities. There's no reason for family members or community members to be going hungry. You know, with all of our policy stances with the Liberation Party and of course my campaign, they're all grounded very heavily on the foundation of equity and humanity. And again, it hurts because that's what we're fighting for. Despite what these other politicians say or do, they continuously make symbolic gestures such as claiming and naming Juneteenth as a national holiday or removing the Robert E. Lee statue. That's cute, you know, but we still have people who are being brutalized and murdered by police with no accountability. We still have our children who are being miseducated. We still have community members who are going without somewhere to lay their head, you know, and without food to be able to put in their stomach. And again, we're fighting for equity and humanity, and that's seen and that's heard throughout all of our policy stances.
Agreed. That's close to what we talk about over at Fred Hampton Leftist as well. We're just really tired of it. We don't really see the Democratic Party really trying to help like the Black community. Like they want Black votes, but they don't really want to make changes for Black people. And I want to hear about like in your district, where would you say the Democratic Party has gone wrong?
Right. Do we have that much time? Right. See, because the reality of it is that the system has done such a number on us that even though we feel the lashes of the Democratic Party, we still continue to stay in this abusive relationship with the Democratic Party. Right. So, you know, what we deal with is them saying, OK, we have the ability to pass the bill for independent civilian review board with subpoena power, you know, so that the, you know, community members are holding, you know, a layer of accountability over police officers. But instead of making this mandatory for all police departments, we're just going to make it an enabling bill. So the last time I checked, most police departments do not want to willingly hold themselves accountable, right? So again, they do things that on the surface, and if you're not really reading into it, you'll say, oh, well, look at what they did. A reporter said to me today, you know, well, the Democratic Party got those Confederate monuments down. Let's make sure that we're clear on this. Those Confederate monuments came down in Richmond because the people started to take them down, okay? And then the city and the state followed suit. So, you know, time after time, you know, even when we look at marijuana justice, you know, it is now legal to, you know, to utilize and to grow marijuana, but we still have people incarcerated, you know, for marijuana charges. So again, the Democratic Party continuously, you know, scratches the surface. It's performative politics to me, right? They tell us what they want, that they feel that we want to hear to get our vote, and so to get into these offices, but they never follow through and they never follow up. You know, they have taken historically advantage of the Black vote, of the votes of our most marginalized community members, and they continuously underdeliver. And as I said so many times, this time is different. We are not here to just send a message. We are here to claim our rightful position, and we absolutely will win this governor's race and continue to bring up, rise up more community members across the Commonwealth to run under the flag of the Liberation Party.
You mentioned marijuana. We have a similar situation here in Massachusetts. It's legal here too. We have shops for it, but Governor Baker has said nothing about people who are incarcerated because of marijuana. People with like 20 years, 15 years still sitting in prison. Those people are still supposed to stay there, but now we can sell it here legally. So it's just kind of like, it doesn't really fix the problem to me. And I feel like they don't really understand that. And I know when I spoke to Lee Carter, he was saying that that was one of the bills that he put forth in the Virginia House. But he said one thing that they removed from that bill was that everybody who was incarcerated for marijuana were supposed to have their records expunged and they were supposed to be released. And he said they removed that part from the bill.
Well, and that's what I mean. You know, that was heard this you know, during special session of summer 2020. And what continuously happens is you heard me allude to earlier, they weaken and water down or kill the bills altogether, but then they parade like, you know, we just did something really, really big. You know, our Black communities have been rocked, you know, due to marijuana charges. You know, so many families have been broken up and now it's legal. but we still have, community members who are incarcerated. We have to start questioning, and we have to start holding our elected officials accountable. Going back to that abusive relationship, they're only doing what we have historically allowed them to do. That's why during the Richmond uprising, when we united across all intersections, we started to make waves because fear came in them, fear of losing their position, and just fear that, wait a minute, the people are not going to settle down. We're not going to, calm down with the false promises. We are demanding that you all say less and do more.
Exactly. I know that it probably hasn't been easy for you running as a third party candidate. What are some of the things that you say to people when you're on the ground and you're trying to tell people, especially people who are so used to voting like Democrat? What are some of the things that you say to them to get them to realize that they don't have to vote for the two-party system, that they have more options?
Sure. Well, I kind of go back to when I was trying to get on the ballot. And to be very honest with you, we did not have the money to purchase voter registration information. And I remember us just kind of sitting down and, we're grassroots all day. That's our origins. And we said, well, let's use some common sense. Where are people at? Right. So let's go into, public parks where people are. Let's go into housing developments that have a, high population density. Right. And so we were knocking on doors blindly. Republicans, Democrat, independents, people who have given up. But once they heard, what we are about, that we are fighting for equity and humanity, and we explain what it's about, right? And when we say liberation is a human right, not a privilege, once people heard what we are fighting for, they signed our petition across the board. I would say, 9 out of 10 doors that I've knocked on, and I've been to all 11 congressional districts myself to get these signatures, 9 out of 10 community members signed across party lines. And so fear is very, very powerful. And fear tactics are continuously being used, as you and I speak right now, to make people think that, wait a minute, a vote for Princess, even though I believe in what she's doing, her policy stances sound great, but a vote for her, for example, is a vote for the Republicans, right? That's that brainwashing and fear tactics that the duopoly has, imposed on us for so long. But the reality of it is this: a mass mobilization of votes for Princess is a win for Princess, which is a win for all of us. And here's some stats. 2013, when Terry McAuliffe did win, only 43% of registered voters turned out to participate in the gubernatorial election. Understand that at that time, it was a little over 5 million registered voters. Only about less than 2.5 million turned out to participate. And Terry McAuliffe only got a tiny bit over 1 million. So there's a lot of votes out there to be claimed. If you go to the current governor in 2017, only 47% of Virginians turned out to participate. So we know what we need to do. For one, we're going to remove that wall of fear and let people know that we, the people, have a lot of power when we unite. And we're going to do just that. We are going to unite, and we will have a mass mobilization to the polls to ensure that we do win. This election is absolutely ours to claim, and we will no longer settle for any crumbs. So again, just talking to community members, hearing their fears and providing them with factual information is very powerful.
I'm curious, has anyone in, I think I probably know the answer to this question, but for the audience, has anyone in mainstream media reached out to you?
Mainstream media on what level? Because we've had a lot of, so we have had, after I made my voice heard during the debate, we have had a lot of state and then some out of DC reporters reach out to us for interviews. Our interviews, I'm literally doing about some days 3-4 interviews a day now. So they have, sometimes you got to call people on the carpet and hold them to the fire, right? Because when people don't know what's happening, then they can keep getting away with it. So it's kind of like, as soon as I made it clear that the mainstream media has their role, in the censorship of my candidacy, now they're all calling and they want to make sure they get it right. But we also see that in the polls. So, for example, Emerson, I believe there was a poll out today by Emerson that says that I only have 2% of the vote, right? So here goes the fear tactic again. The survey never included my name. My name is nowhere on most of the surveys, but then they'll put out polls that say I went from 3% to 2% to 1%. And I think I saw one today that said 0.65%. Those are all fear tactics, to make people think that it's going to be a wasted vote. But I promise you, my name is not on most of the surveys. So they'll take where it says undecided, and they'll take or to just say in general independent, and then they'll tag my name onto the final poll results. So, again, I won't back down. The people won't back down, and I am very empowered by community members across the Commonwealth and now nationwide that are rallying behind us to ensure that we absolutely cross that finish line and win this governor race for all of us.
Yeah, we have to give more voices to third party candidates, because I can tell you, when Hillary was running against Trump, most people I talked to didn't even know about Jill Stein.
Mhm.
Same thing when Trump was running against Biden, most people I talked to didn't know about Howie Hawkins.
Right.
And it's just because the media, the like CNN, MSNBC, they're not giving them that attention that they give the Democrat and the Republican candidates. And when they do, they're using smear tactics. They told us that Jill Stein was like a Russian asset, whatever, when she got to like 7% in the polls. So I think it's really important. And those of you out there listening, if you have a platform, we need to give more voice to third party candidates, because mainstream media is not really doing it the way they're going to for Democrat and Republican candidates. And it's a problem, and we got to call it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, we learned how to make the best lemonade out of our lemons, and that's what we did during the debate. We were not going to wait for them to possibly give us media time at the end. We decided to take it. We're not asking anymore. We will take what we rightfully deserve. We can't play by the rules of the duopoly, because as you're saying, their rules are meant to exclude third-party candidates. Anybody that's going up against the status quo, best believe every attempt will be made. We're constantly getting emails and messages, from Democratic mostly supporters saying, please, ma'am, please step out and support here. Do you not understand the sacrifices and the hard work that went behind getting on that ballot, and continuously fighting? Now, do you not understand that this is not just about making a statement? We are oppressed people that are in an abusive relationship, and we are ready to walk away from it. We are ready, and we absolutely will claim what we deserve. And that's liberation for all of us.
Speaking of fighting against the duopoly, I want to get your opinion about some of the progressives that we have in Congress right now. The Squad, they ran, heavy campaigns. They Grassroots, on the ground. AOC did the same as you. She knocked on every door, which I believe is the way to go about doing it, and not just knocking on the doors that are like Democrat voters. And some people follow that strategy, and it works for some people, but I don't think that's the way to go about doing it. Recently, we have kind of seen that they have not really held up their end of the bargain in terms of pushing back on Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, saying Joe Biden's doing like a great job. Where do you feel they have, first of all, why do you feel that is happening?
Mhm.
And where do you feel they have kind of shifted a bit from when they first were like campaigning?
Right. So I think that, on a federal, on a state level, oftentimes, we have people, not always, but we have what we feel are champions that get into it for the right reason. But oftentimes, you got to follow the money trail, right? And you have to, many people look at their own personal movement, throughout the system and how it's going to benefit them. And sometimes speaking truth to power and taking a stand on the unpopular side, you are treated as an outcast. And unfortunately, we see people compromise their morals, and their values to do what the majority is doing. We see that, and we've seen that here in Virginia as well. There were two other Black women who were running for governor. You had Jennifer Carl Foy, you had Jennifer McCullough, and both of them absolutely shredded Terry McAuliffe, who's now the Democratic nominee, shredded him to pieces and said how he was an awful candidate, how harmful it would be if he would become our governor. Well, within less than 24 hours of both of them losing, they both completely changed their tone to he is the best candidate for the state of Virginia, and they encouraged all of their supporters to put their weight behind him. That is some really, really toxic stuff, because again, you're playing with the lives, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
of the impacted people. And so it makes you say, I'm saying to myself, am I not Black anymore? Because I thought when you guys were in, you said that Virginia needs a Black woman to be governor. Am I not Black? Am I not a woman anymore? But it's the political games, and that so many of us sell our soul to the devil for 2 cents and a blade of grass is what happens, right? And we push to the side, the voices, needs, and concerns of our constituents. And that's especially speaks true to what you're saying, even on a federal level as well.
Mm. There's a question about supporting your campaign. It says, Sabs, where do we donate to Princess?
Absolutely. So thank you for asking that question. We are very humbled and grateful for any and all donations, as we do not accept money from corporations. We will not allow corporations to be the mouthpiece of our candidacy, of our campaign, of the Liberation Party. So you can donate by going to www.princessblandon.com, and I'm going to thank you in advance for any donations.
Awesome. Now I want you to explain the difference, because I'm noticing in the chat, I think some people are mixing up liberation with libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
Can
Yes.
you? Yeah, go ahead. Because
Yeah,
obviously
so
you
yeah,
probably
we
get
hear
that.
I hear some people rallying for us, and they're like, "Yeah, we have a libertarian on the ballot." And I'm like, "No." So they look alike, they kind of sort of sound alike, but we are definitely, we fight very fearlessly, and we, with no doubt, we prioritize the voices, needs, and concerns of all Virginians, and we're very unapologetic about that. And so on your ballot, what you'll see, it'll say Princess Blandon, and then the abbreviation after that is LP for Liberation Party. The Libertarian Party is just an L.
Okay. That's good for people. I'm glad you said that, because that's good for people to know. I don't want people to get confused. I'm like, I think these are two different things.
It is. It absolutely is. Two different parties.
How do you feel about when we talk about the healthcare system? I'm not sure how it is in Virginia, but from every place I've lived, it needs work. We need everybody to have healthcare in this country, in my opinion. How do you feel about the healthcare system in Virginia? And is there something in place that may be moving towards like a Medicare for all, or like a universal healthcare?
Absolutely. So, right now, our legislators are not rallying for that, nor are the other two, the Democratic or the Republican candidate, but we absolutely support, and that's a big part of our healthcare policy stance is Medicare for all. And we understand that is easier said than done, but we absolutely will achieve that, because at the end of the day, no one should be deprived of medical care because of their inability, to afford medical coverage. I'm gonna be now, not let's be real honest and personal, okay? So during this time that I am, during this 3 months leading up into the election, I made the decision that I'm going to take off 3 months of unpaid leave from my job, so that I can give this campaign my all, as I refuse to accept anything short of victory. And in order for me to keep my health insurance for my family, it costs almost $1,700 a month. Okay, that's a lot of money. I run into people who are working just to be able to have health care. So again, we do believe that, healthcare has to be treated as a human right, not a privilege. I spoke to a veteran who told me his story of how he had to go out of the country just to get the medical attention that he needed, because, it was not being provided for him here. And so we have to, prioritize, healthcare, community safety. And again, it goes back to that equity and humanity that we keep talking about.
Awesome. What are some of the top 3 issues that you think are needed for working people to change their standard of living?
Absolutely. So, on our platform, we talk about increasing the minimum wage, and there has been a national push for increasing the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and we definitely agree with that. But that should be at the very minimum. We have to make sure that that is adjusted with inflation, right? We must make sure that we have paid leave, and paid leave and paid sick leave, for all of our workers. And we must also make sure that we, bolster our unions, right? Our ability. I'm an educator, and collective bargain is very, very important. I I live in Middle Peninsula. I have to travel about 3.5 hours to Northern Virginia just to be able to make a living wage. So making sure that we have protections, in place, and that we're providing the sick leave and the paid time off, the paid leave for all workers, and making sure that we're the other part of it when we talk about our workers and employees is talking about COVID too. Right now that's a hot topic when looking at a lot of our businesses. Like, I'm getting messages saying that restaurants are closing for certain gaps of time because they're not able to staff. They're not able to staff some of these positions, but in order to do so, we have to make sure that we're protecting our employees. Some employees are, my aunt is just made a decision that she's going to leave her job because she got really sick, and there's no requirement for masks, or no requirement for vaccination, so no level of protection. And when she looks at pay as well, she's being underpaid for the work that she's doing. So making sure that we are providing all Virginians with a livable wage, and making sure that that is adjusting with inflation, and we're providing those, that the paid time leave as well.
One of the things I noticed, because I have family in Virginia, some people might be surprised to hear this because, especially living up here, people think every state in the South is really cheap to live in. I was actually pretty surprised how expensive it is to live in Virginia, especially Northern Virginia.
Yes. You're looking at, when I first started working there, I said, well, maybe I'll get a studio apartment so that I don't have to do that 3.5 to sometimes 5 hour, commute back and forth. And as I started looking at them, you're looking at like $1,300 a month for a studio. And I'm like, that's my mortgage, for a whole house, further down south. So, even Richmond, I hear stories of people that have to, move out of Richmond, or they have to board with someone else because the cost of living is just so high that it's pushing a lot of our community members out. And so, yeah, we have a lot of work that will be done, to ensure affordable housing, as well.
Now, the area you live in Virginia, it's rural Virginia,
It's
correct?
very rural. I tell people I see more deer than I see people. It's very rural, yes.
What do you think are some of the things, like, because I feel like a lot of times when politicians are campaigning, it's like a lot of times they tend to focus on the metropolitan areas. What do you think are some of the things that people kind of like, forget about when it comes to rural America?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you a couple of examples. So one of the big things is broadband, and that hit us really hard when at the peak of the pandemic, when we went on to virtual learning. A lot of our students did not have access to broadband. Like where I live, walking distance, I have some family, and they still don't have it. And so broadband in our rural communities is definitely a big thing. And I had the opportunity to go to Southwest Virginia recently, where we have a lot of community members in Montgomery County who are fighting against the Mountain Valley Pipeline. And that's something that's really, really big when we start talking about, our environmental justice as well. And what, just in general, to go back to your question, oftentimes, and I'm hearing this as I'm on the campaign trail, community members in rural Virginia feel forgotten, as if, it's normally our big urban centers where, people are heard and politicians are making waves at. And, in rural Virginia, a lot of community members across the Commonwealth feel that they're being forgotten. And so to me, it is very important as I continue on the campaign trail to move around to as many parts of the Commonwealth as I can, so that I can make sure that as governor, I am elevating the voices, needs, and concerns of all Virginians.
Yeah, I totally hear you there. I say the same thing with Massachusetts. People are like, "Oh, Boston, Boston." I'm like, there's a whole other side of Massachusetts that is completely forgotten about.
Right.
So I see similar like situations. When you think about education, because you mentioned education earlier, I work in education.
Me
What are
too.
some of the things that you feel like when it comes to education that need to change?
Absolutely. So I'm an educator. I'm a veteran educator. I've been in it for going on 14 years now. And here in Virginia, I'm going to speak very specific now to just Virginia, but the SOLs, which are our standards of learning, as governor, I absolutely would do away with those bias tests. We have to broaden things and provide other avenues for our students to be able to demonstrate understanding of the material that's being taught. We also must address the miseducation. I know that critical race theory is a huge hot topic, at least here in Virginia, but we must make sure that we are teaching our students the truths of, of our history here in Virginia and nationwide. How can we move forward if we don't address, some of the, I'm not even going to call them mistakes, but some of the behaviors, in our past, that have adversely impacted, certain subgroups, such as our Black community members. And so, we see how systemic racism is rooted into so many things, from our criminal justice system to housing. So, I am definitely for making sure that we are properly educating our students and also giving them, multiple opportunities and avenues to learn. So we're pushing for family choice. I think that COVID has shown us that we can do things differently. So not everyone needs to be sitting in the class, learning. We can have, Ron Clark Academy in Atlanta has a great program where they're really, really hands-on and engaged. We see that some students learn very well, in a virtual environment as well. And as an educator, I will say that we're not paid as professionals. I make that long commute simply because where I live in rural Virginia, I would make next to nothing, so in order to make a living wage, I have to travel all the way up there. So we need to, attract more teachers by paying them as the profession that they are. And we also need to do a better job bringing in more diversity within our classrooms, as far as our educators, are concerned. I will absolutely push funding into our public schools. The infrastructure of many of our schools is another problem that needs to be addressed, so that we're bringing our schools up to par, so that they are state of the art schools, facilities for all of our educators. And lastly, the last thing that I want to say real quick about education, and I saw very heavily when I served as a school administrator, is we must do a much better job at being very intentional with addressing the school to prison pipeline.
Yep. Yep. And I feel like when I think about standardized tests, I feel like standardized tests are in place to weed people out, especially when you think about college admissions, because that's one of the first things. I've been on admissions committees. Since one of the first things you look at is, oh, let's see those test scores. Oh, okay, that we can remove those students. Let's go to the next thing. It's like the first thing that they look at, and it's kind of sad in a way, because a student can have all these other qualifiers. Like they could have extracurriculars. They could have worked a part-time job, like while they were in high school. Those are things that I consider valuable, not so much the score that they got on a test.
Absolutely. And the tests are very biased, and it takes a snap picture of what you've learned all year and your ability to demonstrate it one moment at a time, one day. I remember with my middle school daughter, she was taking a mock SOL, and one of the questions said something to the effect of, how long does it take to do your hair? 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 hours, right? And she chose 3 hours. And she got it wrong. And so I challenged the teacher on that. I'm like, I'm not sure about your daughter's here, but for my daughter's here, we're looking 3 hours at least, And the teacher said to me, well, Miss Blaney, you're educated. You know how it is. Yeah, I know how it is so much. So at this point and moving forward, my daughter is exempt. I will not I will not have her take these biased tests, And again, that's just an example. But if you look at many of the questions, they absolutely are. And again, these are tests that are used to determine, a student's ability to move forward, in many cases.
I agree. One of the, I guess, solutions, or what they consider to be a solution here in reference to education, is they are creating more and more charter schools. And I personally don't feel like this should be the answer. I feel like we should fix the schools that we have, because I feel like charter schools, what they do is they take the highest performing students from the public schools and test them into the charter schools. And so those kids are uprooted and sent to the charter schools where they can get college prep. And the students who don't have those scores and don't have those grades, they're left behind. And it's almost like a punishment in a way. I want to get your opinion about charter schools.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. I am all for, pushing our funding into our public schools. That's where the majority of our students are. In education, we talk very heavily about something called differentiation, right? And we use that word only when it's convenient for us. But in all actuality, that's not happening. As you said, it's kind of like we're handpicking, the quote unquote, what is perceived to be the cream of the crop based on their ability to actually pass these tests and to perform well, where we have a lot of children who are absolutely gifted. They learn differently and they can demonstrate their understanding differently. And so I am all for, pushing our funding, not into private schools, not into charter school, but into our public schools to ensure that we're giving all of our children, regardless as to their economic status and, the same opportunities to exceed as we would our students in charter or any other private schools.
Absolutely. I want to get your opinion about the Biden administration right now. And how do you think? I already saw the look.
Right.
I already saw the look. How do you think Joe Biden's doing, especially when it comes to education, progressive issues in this country, and what do you think will happen come 2024?
Yeah. So what I'm hoping, let me start on the end. What I'm hoping is come 2024, we have a candidate ready to run under the liberation flag, for president. But I'm not impressed. As someone told me, as one of my team members, so she said, I'm a recovering Democrat, and so I'm personally not impressed by the Biden administration. I feel that the Biden administration, I know that it's not just I feel the Biden administration relied very heavily on Black people, for him to get in, and we came through. Black people in general, came through, for Biden, but he's under delivering already, and so I'm not impressed, and not impressed by as an educator, the push to quickly open schools back up, knowing that, for example, the Delta variant is going rampant. And, every time from the school that my children go to the school that I work to, the cases are constantly rising. And we essentially have an administration that is definitely putting profit in politics over the people, and that is beyond concerning to me as a mother and as an educator. And I guess I'm going off on a tangent a little bit, just talking about COVID in general. There is a push for a 100% vaccination rate, but nobody's getting into the wide variable regarding why we have so many hesitant community members across the country who don't want to get it. So again, yeah, not impressed by the Biden administration and not impressed by Harris, at all. And, we keep pushing forward right now. We're focusing very heavily on the state election. And it's my goal, my hope that here in Virginia, we will set the stage for the rest of the nation.
Well said. What advice would you give to, and I'm going to go further into this on Friday with This is Revolution podcast. We're going to talk a lot about this, but what advice would you give to African Americans that feel that they have to be loyal to the Democratic Party?
Absolutely. As I said earlier, please just take a moment to think for yourself. I feel that the duopoly has, done a number on us for so long that it keeps us, too many of us, in this abusive relationship with the Democratic Party. They keep under delivering, so why should we keep voting blue, for example, no matter who? And so I say to, people who are scared or kind of reluctant to vote for me or a third party candidate, take a moment to do your research, right? And then take a moment to step back and really go over the report card of the party, or the candidate that you plan on voting for. I feel that as a people, we're all the way at the bottom. There's no direction that we can go from here than up. And that's exactly where we're going. And I look forward to Virginians across the Commonwealth and nationwide. I said earlier, we have nationwide support now. California is coming through very, very heavy as far as being supportive, because people understand that we no longer should, nor do we have to accept the crumbs that are being thrown our way. We don't want to wait another 400 years. We're not going to, right? Our legislators keep telling us, what, we're only going to pass these very thin, weak bills, but we have a lot of work to do, and people now understand that we don't need you to just say it. We need you to be about it and get it done.
All right, Princess, when is the election?
November 2nd, but early voting has already started. So we strongly encourage Virginians, please do not wait. If you are not registered, quickly get registered before October 12th. Early voting is underway, so don't wait until November 2nd because something might come up. Get out there to the polls this week and get registered to vote. And when you go out to vote, bring as many people with you as possible and make sure that you spread the word widely.
Awesome. Princess, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to hang out here a little bit and talk to people in the chat, but thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
All right. Take care.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that discussion. She is awesome, isn't she? Eric Thomas, thank you so much for putting that in the chat. Guys, this is where you can find Princess Blanding. Eric has put this in the chat as well, but it's www.princessblanding.com. So definitely go check out her website, you guys. I agree with her. Like, I would not wait till November. Go ahead and get a jump on it now. Get it out of the way. Like she said, sometimes something can come up. You know how that is. You know how things happen. It is what it is. But my goal, like, I really want you guys to hear from people who, if you do want to participate in electoral politics, people who are running third party, because again, they are not getting the attention by the media that they should. Even in some of the independent media spaces, believe it or not, they're still not getting that attention that they should. I'm still hearing people who tell us the Democratic Party is corrupt. Those same people next stream will be like, vote for this Democrat. So it's just like, I think we've all like been there. It's time for something different. It's time for something different. And I think we need to when we say we want to get away from the duopoly, that means Democrats and Republicans. And if you're running in one of the two, that's still you're still a part of the duopoly. I want to make that very clear, guys. I want to make that very clear. So I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat because I want to make sure I shout some people out. Notori said good luck to her, or Notary said good luck to her. Absolutely. I just want to make sure that people get to see. Exactly. Phenomenal Mysticism said, say no to the duopoly. It's time, guys. I'm telling you, I just can't anymore. I just can't. And you know, next election, they'll bring about someone else who is new and shiny, and they're going to have a great speech, and they're going to tell you how they're not bought and paid. But we've already seen what happened with that with the squad. So why keep doing the same thing over and over again? Why? Why? Another thing I want to tell you guys about, because a lot of times I'm on here, I'm talking about mutual aid. And I saw Rome earlier in the chat, but I don't know if he is still here. Let me see if I can pull this up. Why does YouTube always have to show up first? I'm not looking for you. I'm not looking for you. Go away. All right. So on Fred Hampton Leftist website here, I want to share my screen. I want to show you guys this, because these are some of the things that are going on. Another pop-up thing? Why are you there? Why are you there? Let me share my screen. So Rome is going around the country, guys. He's doing a tour for the poor. He's been doing this for a while. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. I'll put the link down in the chat. But here are some of the things that's going on in reference to like mutual aid. So Fred Hampton Leftist, there is mutual aid here to save the Hampton house. This is important. Now, this is Fred Hampton's house. Save the Hampton House is an effort by those working relentlessly to protect the legacy of the Black Panther Party and Chairman Fred Hampton. The house is located in Maywood, Illinois, where Chairman grew up. Work is in progress to preserve the property and transform it into a historic site where the works of the Black Panther Party can be displayed and made available for visitors. You can get to this from the Fred Hampton Leftist website. Let me go ahead and put the link in the chat. Yeah, you should be able to see it there. So if you go on FHL's website, you'll see all these different, mutual aids that you can, donate to, you can contribute to. And if you're wondering how you can do mutual aid in your own community, because people do ask me that sometimes, if you go to mutualaidhub.org, you'll be able to see all these different mutual aid organizations in your area. I was surprised at how many were here in Massachusetts. I knew we would have some. I didn't think there were as many as there are. So mutualaidhub.org, and you can do anything from donating to mutual aid. You can help distribute mutual aid. Different requests that people may have in your area. Sometimes it's things like picking up prescription medicine for people. There are people who need that done for them because they can't physically leave the house. Sometimes it's things like delivering groceries for people. I mean, why have someone pay all this money for Instacart when we can do it for them and they don't have to worry about all the fees and things like that? So we definitely have to contribute more and help within our communities. It can be things like mentoring people. I had a mentor my freshman year when I was in college. I was a first generation college student. So having that mentor really, really helped me. Because it's not easy when no one else in your family has been, and you go and all of these things come up and you just don't know. You don't know what to do and you don't know where to turn. Try to help people in your community the best way that you can. I know we're all busy, but if you can take an hour or so out of your day to help, that's really important. One of the things that I do is I mentor first generation college students because I had that experience and I felt like I always wanted to give that back. And you'd be surprised how many people are just happy to have someone to talk to that has already had that experience that can lead them in the right path. So it's mutualaidhub.org. You can check it out, see all the requests that are in your area. You guys, there are people out there that need a lot of help. And especially now during the pandemic, you might be surprised. It could be someone right down the street from you, because I was surprised how many were as close to me as they are. Sometimes things may look good on the outside, but it may not be good on the inside. So try to find ways to help your community as much as you can. We try to get that message across, you guys. Yes, thank you for mentioning that we're a pilgrim. Rome is supposed to cross paths with Fred Hampton Jr. on his tour for the poor. In the next little while, they might get an interview at that time. That's true. Rome's working on that. So we'll keep our fingers crossed. Fred Hampton Jr. is very, very, very busy. Very, very, very busy. But it'll be great if that can happen. And yeah, he does know about FHL. He knows like what we're doing here. And definitely, you guys, any way that you can help people in your community, please try to help. If there are no organizations in your community, you can help someone in another community. But we really got to help people right now. There's a lot of people that are unemployed. There's a lot of people that are getting laid off. People are still being laid off. People are getting laid off, and people need all the help that they can get. So this is one of those times where we really need to come together as a community and not wait on people like Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi to try to save us, because they're not coming to save us. We have to save ourselves and we have to save each other. That's what community is all about. So I challenge everyone. Here's a little homework assignment. I challenge you to get to know someone in your neighborhood that you may have never spoken to. Now, I live in the Boston area. This is not going to be easy for me because for the most part, a lot of us up here, we don't branch out. For the most part, we don't branch out. It's not the friendliest place. I will say that it's not the friendliest place. But I challenge you to try to get to know someone in your neighborhood that you never spoke to. You may not know. Even if you're in the city, sometimes it's going to be hard. You go home to your apartments from work and we shut the door. Try to get to know someone in your neighborhood. Get to know them first. And then if you see that they need help with something, then offer that help. Because sometimes when you go up to someone and you don't know them and you offer help, they think, okay, what's this person about? What kind of scam are they pulling here? Honestly, I would think that too. Just being honest. But we got to get to know our neighbors. There used to be a time when that happened. So we got to get back to that. We got to help each other and we got to be there for each other. See the Change said, I like this challenge. Awesome. Thanks so much, See the Change. I see I'm getting fuzzy again. I hate this router. I'm going to get a new router, you guys. I'm going to get a new router. Yeah, thanks so much. That's the challenge, guys. I should start giving out homework assignments like once a week or something like that. My mom will be like, this is not your class. These are not your students. But yeah, that's the challenge for everyone, you guys. I'm going to take a couple questions in the chat. And then at 8 o'clock, I will hop off. Oh, shoot. I forgot to mention, I don't know how I forgot this. I'm so sick of this router. It should come back in a second. Red Sox won last night against the Yankees. I don't know how I forgot to tell you guys that. It was a do or die game. They won. We're moving on to Tampa Bay. They're going to be tough to beat. I'm just being honest. But not only did we win, but we kind of like killed them. Like we got the first home run. And I love that whenever we get the first one, you know. It's good when you get the first home run. But Eovaldi killed it last night. He was our starting pitcher. He was striking people out left and right. So we're on to Tampa Bay, and we won without Martinez. And that's a big deal because I didn't think we were going to win without Martinez. So, yes, I am, Gene. I am very happy. I didn't think that was going to happen. I hate this router, man. Yes, router, I hate you. I'm going to start rebooting my router every time, like before I stream. I don't like you right now. I don't. All right. But yeah. Like definitely good time. It was 6-2. Yep. And they got those last two runs getting closer towards, like, I think the sixth inning is when inning 6 always makes me nervous because I can't tell you how many games I've been at where everything's cool. And then we get to the 6th inning and then all of a sudden the other team decides they want to turn things around. So whenever we get to the 6th inning, I'm always nervous. I'm like, what in the world? But yeah, I am super, super excited. Ruben said, I owe you a super chat. How much? Oh, that's right. You made me a bet. I forgot about that. Whatever you want. I'm not going to put an amount on it. Whatever you want. I forgot about that. Oh. Yeah. How do I get this? Okay. Properly smug. It's okay. It's okay. Hey, that was me like a week or two ago. I was the one saying boo because the Yankees came here and they swept us. And I was at one of those games and it was bad. It was bad. See the Change just said they were just talking about this on FHL earlier, how some are not comfortable receiving help when they don't know you. So don't get frustrated if some decline your offer when doing mutual aid. Yeah, it's true. Like people get suspicious. I mean, honestly, I kind of would too. I'd be like, what is this really about? What is this really about? This guy came to my apartment one time when I was in college, and me and my roommates were like, what is up with this guy? He knocked on the door and he said, I'm here to do any type of chores or service that you need done today. And we were like, why? We're like, who are you and why are you here? He was like, anything. He's like, do you need like your car fixed? Do you need laundry done? It was just weird. Like we just weren't, you know. Anyway, we turned him down. So this is what I'm telling you. Don't be disappointed if that happens to you. Don't be disappointed. But I'm going to go ahead and hop off because my router is like, yeah, I'm getting fuzzy. That's why I told you guys. I freaking hate this router. I got to do something about it. I got to do something. It's not my friend right now. Not my friend right now. Oh, I'm not that fuzzy. I am still kind of fuzzy. Oh, well. Franny French, was he a Mormon? No, I asked that too. I asked him if he was Mormon. We asked him if he was Jehovah's Witness. We asked him if he was, with any type of religion. And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, that's weird. But we turned him down. But yeah. All right, guys. I'm not going to keep you much longer because, like I said, I'm getting the fuzzy buzzles. And You guys know how we do this. I won't be here tomorrow night. I have FHL Roundtable, so catch me over there on FHL. But I'll be back on Friday with This Is Revolution podcast. That should be a really good show. All right, guys, you know how we do this. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.